Hello, everyone. Welcome. It really is wonderful to see all of you. And as I mentioned, we might have a fairly large group, but we're hoping to still be able to keep this interactive and engaging. So my name is Frances Sadi, and I am the Associate Director of Non-Degree Programs at Brown University's School of Professional Studies. Here at Brown School of Professional Studies, we design and deliver executive programs, executive education programs for working professionals such as you. Programs focused on helping leaders build practical skills and to create meaningful, develop skills that create meaningful impact in your organizations and in the broader communities that they serve. So really, it's wonderful to have you here. And so today's session is titled The Myths of Leadership. And it's a topic that tends to really resonate pretty quickly once we start unpacking it, because many of these beliefs are commonly held, and they are things that we come to pretty naturally. We've learned them, we've practiced them, and they've even been rewarded for them over time. So as I mentioned, today's session will be a little bit different than the traditional webinar that we often offer. So this one's really meant to be a bit of a more live interactive conversation. Robin, who I will introduce in a moment, will guide us through some of the common myths of leadership that shape how leaders operate. And we'll explore together what it looks like to challenge those assumptions and to begin to shift towards a more coach-like leadership or mindset. And then towards the end of the time together, I'll give a brief overview of our Leader as Coach program for those of any of you who are interested in going deeper on developing some of these skills. Before we get started, just a few quick logistical notes. So we are recording today's session. So if you need to step away or want to revisit anything later, you can look for a link, an email with a link to that recording. We'll post it later. And then also, as I mentioned, the session is designed to be interactive, so we do encourage engagement throughout. If you feel comfortable turning your video on, wonderful. No pressure to do that, though. We do have the chat enabled, as you can see, so feel free to use that to share reflections or reactions as we go. If there's anything that resonates or questions that come up, that's available. We also have a more formal Q&A feature set up, which is found at the bottom of your Zoom screen, so you can use that if there's any formal questions that you have either for Robin or for myself as we go through the program. Yeah, and then if you're comfortable, as I mentioned, you can turn your camera on. I think those are the main points. Robin, if there's anything I missed, feel free to speak up. But let me first formally introduce you. So Robin Rose, Dr. Robin Rose, is an associate professor of the practice of leadership and a professional certified coach here at Brown School of Professional Studies. With over 4 decades of experience in leadership development, change management, and team effectiveness, Robin has played a key role in designing and delivering transformative programs and in helping leaders build the skills they need to navigate complexity with clarity, confidence, and courage. So Robin, I'm going to turn things over to you, but I will be here to assist. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
That's great. Thanks, Fran. Thanks. And Fran will be monitoring the chat for questions and themes that come up, because I have a hard time doing multiple things at the same time. So anyway, it's great to see everybody. The few of you I do recognize: Emmanuel, hello, bonjour. There are probably some other folks that I've met along the way. And so we get to talk about leadership for the next 45 minutes or so, and then we'll open it up for questions. And I can't think of, well, there are other things in my life that I'm also excited about, but leadership is one of the things professionally that I'm super excited about, and feel like I am always a student of leadership, always learning more about how do I influence people, how am I influenced by other people, etc. Leadership is about the process of influencing others. So that's where I always start, because it's like we often constrain our definition or thought about leadership as the people who are in authority positions. We probably have all had people in authority positions who are really not so effective leaders, right? And we've probably interacted with some people who were brilliant at influencing others, even though they had no position of authority. So that's where that's one of the places that I start. And the other place that I start is that people who are really effective as leaders have at least three main things. One is they have often some sort of theoretical knowledge or map or some conceptual understanding of the leadership process. Secondly, they have skills, and that's skills of communicating, the skills of giving feedback, the skills of negotiating, the skills often of public speaking, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the third piece, the third stool in our stool of leadership is self-awareness. We probably all worked for someone who was very smart, well-educated, had pretty good skills in many ways, but had no idea of sort of how they were impacting others. So in my experience, you need all three, right? And so today, that when we talk about the myths of leadership, we're sort of touching on all those, but probably more so on self-awareness. Self-awareness of what are the beliefs that I'm holding about leadership as a leader, and what's the impact of those beliefs on other people. So we use the word myth in the title of this webinar. Somebody give me a definition. What is a myth? Let's start there. Anybody can raise their hand or just take yourself off mute and shout it out. What's a myth?
I'll say it's an assumption.
Can be an assumption. It's a belief system, an assumption. Great. What else? Strong belief.
It's a story.
It's a story. Colleen, thank you. Yeah, it is. It's a story. And, myths were created to help our ancestors understand the world. But myths are also like, it's a story. And today we're going to talk about some of the stories that we probably have all heard about what makes for effective leadership. So it's a story, it's a narrative that we carry with us that affects what? If we subscribe to a myth or a belief system, what impact can that have on us? What does that influence? Yeah, Meg, go ahead. Impacts decisions, behaviors. It impacts the way we show up, right? Because we have a belief system, we have some narrative around how we should show up as a leader. So Fran is
But
gonna go ahead, Fran.
sorry, if we never question the narrative or the myth, then we don't know what's real.
Yeah.
Amen. That's right.
I would also say myths are intended to explain the unexplainable. So, from a Freudian perspective, when we go from unconscious or naive consciousness to critical consciousness, myth is something that helps us when we're in a state of naivete and we need to explore further.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's great. It's the way we make meaning, right? And sometimes we have to challenge ourselves about the way we're sort of framing things and seeing the world. So Fran is going to put up a quick poll that focuses on two traditional myths. So how much do you agree or disagree with the following statements? Leaders need to have all the answers. Go ahead and tell us how much you agree with that. Not necessarily for yourself, but in general.
Sorry, I just want to note that strongly agree is listed twice on the poll, on the first question.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, so the one on the bottom should be strongly disagree, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully folks can catch that. Keeping us on our toes. When it starts to level out, thank you, everyone. I can see already about 3/4 of you have participated. I'm just going to wait until it seems like we've captured anyone who wants to take part.
Yeah. So, by the way, can you hear the dog barking? Should I shut the door?
No, I think Zoom these days it's so good it filters things out.
Okay, my little dog is having a little bit of a hissy fit. So, yeah.
All All right, I'm going to close
So,
this share.
yeah, let's close this one for now, and we'll do the second one in a little bit, Fran. So it seems like most of you disagree with that for yourself, or in general, disagree with that leaders need to have all the answers. Let me ask you another related question. Have there been times in your careers where you have felt, even for a moment or for a short period of time, that you needed to have all the answers in order for you to have credibility with other people? Yeah. So we might have framed that a little bit differently.
Mhm.
And when does that get activated? In your experience, when does that myth get activated? That, oh, I got to have the answers, otherwise I won't have credibility. Anybody?
I'd say when you're under pressure, when, all the tasks and to-dos start to pile up and it feels like you have to have an answer to help move things along in the
Yeah.
process.
Mhm.
I think it's
I
also, I'm sorry.
Go
Go
ahead,
ahead,
Greg.
please. Well, I was just going to say it's also a manifestation of some social constructions and social narratives with respect to the expectation that a leader has to be someone that's intelligent, when you start looking at these things, and they have to be able to have the answers.
Yeah.
It's kind of a social construction that again is a myth.
Yeah.
I think
I
part
If
of
think
I
it
it
may make a question, make a comment, I think the best leaders are the ones that are able to recognize when the answer is coming from a member of their team and listening to their team and finding the answer in their team. Because
Amen.
not all leaders are innovators and they don't have all the ideas and all the answers, but their team might.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I would like
Yeah.
I would like to add, I think I'm going back to the question. I know I felt the pressure to have all the answers at work when I've had to present in front of clients.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I don't know the answers. Wait a minute. I felt that pressure.
Of
Mhm.
course. Of course. So there's one more input, and then we're going to move on. Courtney, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, I agree. I think it depends on the audience. I think when speaking to like a senior leadership team, there's a lot of expectation on you as a leader within your agency or organization to have answers when you're
Right.
responding to your leadership. And I think when working within your team, it's a little more acceptable to show up as a thought partner and to try and encourage more of a democratic process versus when your senior leaders are looking to you for something.
Yeah. So it is situationally dependent. If
Mhm.
you're making a presentation to, for instance, really important stakeholders, and you're trying to pitch an idea or pitch a program or whatever, then there's certainly more pressure. I think oftentimes younger people who are early in their careers feel a lot of pressure that I have to prove myself.
Yeah.
I have to prove myself that I'm more knowledgeable than people might assume that I am.
Mhm.
If you are a member of a marginalized group, you might feel that pressure also. That I have to prove that as a woman or as a person of color or whatever, that I have to really like be totally on my game in order to be taken seriously. So it's not that that myth is always a bad thing. It's reality that we have to deal with. But what's the impact on if you are a leader and you feel like because of the situation you've got to have all the answers? What's the impact on you?
Way too much stress.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
Hi, Kelly.
exhausting.
Yeah, way too much stress is right. It is right. And what's the impact on others? If I'm leading a group and I feel like I've always got to have the answers, or I got to be the first one to speak up and point in a particular direction. What's the impact if I feel that way as a leader? What's the impact on other people who work for me and with me?
they're going to
I think,
feel that same pressure,
yeah.
and that you might lose some trust. And if you don't show vulnerability, they're not going to realize that they can show vulnerability because oftentimes there is no perfect answer, and you need to lay that out.
Amen. Amen. So
Yeah.
here's the bottom line. The more complex the situation is, the more pressure, the more complex the situation is, the more you actually, as a leader, need a lot of other, maybe a lot of other people around you who have different perspectives and different skills to help you. I don't care how smart you are. I can think of a number of situations that I've been in as a senior administrator at Brown where I actually had no clue what the answer, what the right direction was to go. And I might need 10 or 12 people in the room with lots of different perspectives, lots of different skills who are going to help the whole group and help me think about all the different possibilities of sort of the direction that we should go. So if we feel like we have to have all the answers, we not only put a lot of pressure on ourselves, we keep a lot of people on the periphery and we don't allow them, we don't give them opportunities to participate and to have input into the problem solving. One of the biggest jobs we have as leaders is to help other people develop the competency, the confidence, and the courage to step up to difficult tasks. And if our response is always that we've got to solve it on our own without their engagement, without their involvement, we are really falling short in our obligation to develop the capacity of other people. A question that I wish that I had asked even more than I ever did, and I asked it a lot, is a very simple question. What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Asking other people, what do you think? So the Leader as Coach program helps you do that, helps you develop the skills to not always jump to advice giving or mentoring, but to ask provocative questions that will help build the mental capacity of the other people around you. My sister one time asked me, well, what do you do as a coach? And I said, well, I provoke people. I provoke people. And she, of course, picked right up on it and said, you've been provoking me for 60 years. You must be really good at this. But part of being a leader-like coach is that you're trying to provoke the thinking of other people. That's my point. All right. So that myth about always having to have the answer is sometimes very limiting for other people and puts a lot of pressure on you. Let's go to the second polling question, Fran.
Yes, let me see if I can. The question about, you want me to post the second poll or bring up the results for vulnerability?
Did we already do the one on vulnerability? I don't think so.
Oh, we didn't talk about it too much yet.
Yeah.
Go there.
Let's go ahead and put that poll up, all right?
Yeah. So
we sort of touched on this, but not completely.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, so I think by framing it as a myth, that probably skewed the results a little bit. But it seemed that mostly the audience disagreed with that statement. But want to dive into it more?
No, let me just go on then. It's okay. We don't need to do it. So what makes it hard? A couple people just commented briefly on leadership and vulnerability. What makes it hard for leaders to show vulnerability with the people they are leading?
Sometimes you don't want to be seen as weak.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be outdone by your team.
On the team. Yeah.
Virginia, I didn't quite catch it, my friend. Can you just repeat?
Sorry. Yeah. It's hard. You worry about the effect on the team.
Yeah.
Will it make them, be anxious that you don't know? Yeah. That you're vulnerable.
Yeah. And if I may add,
but on
it
the
may
flip
also.
side, it
sorry.
also, but equally, I think on the flip side, it lets them know you're human.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody else was just trying to say something. Kate?
Yeah, this is Vivian. There's also a concern that you may lose credibility with your team if you're not able to come up with those decisive, actions in the moment. Often the team looks to the leader to make those decisive, to take those decisive steps.
Yeah.
But see,
It's
that's
right.
all.
And
go ahead.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
One more.
But I think that's also the irony is that if you look at Lencioni's work in the 5 dysfunctions of a team, it's absence of trust. And part of that is due to a leader not being able to convey vulnerability. So in a way, the conveyance of vulnerability is actually a strength, although we sometimes don't look at it that way.
Yeah, Roland.
Especially, and that's, go ahead.
I'm
finish?
just trying to bring some of the voices from the chat in, and I was just noting that Roland seems to be in agreement with you, Gregory, that being vulnerably actually brings in and builds trust.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And there's not a definitive answer. Like it's always okay to be vulnerable, not okay to be vulnerable. I think you're right. People are looking to you for reassurance, direction, confidence, when they're anxious about a particularly difficult situation. But they also, I don't think people want to work for a robot. One of the things without getting political, that I admired about Barack Obama was that at Sandy Hook, when he was speaking in an extraordinarily emotionally intense moment, or when he was speaking at the Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston, he was willing to show some vulnerability, and it was appropriate. Like, who the hell wouldn't be crying? And he also spoke with strength and vision and reassurance. Those are sometimes hard things to balance. But somebody just said something here really important, a couple of you did, about that showing some vulnerability is part of how you build trust with other people. They don't want to work for a robot, right? Because if you never show any emotion, what's the message to the people who work for you and with you? What's
They're
the
not
message?
allowed to either.
Exactly. They're not allowed to either. Some people do have this myth or assumption about work that, you should never show any emotion. That doesn't work so well. Even if we try to like constrain ourselves and not show emotion, just kind of leaks out, whether we want it to or not. So finding ways to share appropriately and to not try to control that all the time lets other people know that, yeah, emotion is part of the human experience, and you can bring some of that into work. Make sense? It's kind of like I worked for somebody one time who never took a day off. And I was new in the job, and I kind of felt like, oh my God, I'm not supposed to take a day off either. And then I realized I can't do that. If you never show emotion, the message is, it's not okay here at this job in this work setting, and that's very constraining. All right, we're going to go on to some other myths. And Fran, you want to put that second poll up?
I will, and I wonder as you respond to this, do we want them to think of it as a myth that they take on for themselves at times, or
No, just in general. Is this a myth that impacts leaders?
Hmm.
If leaders want something done right, they have to do it themselves. You ever see that in other people, in other leaders? If I want it done right, I got to do it myself. Okay, so you're disagreeing with that maybe for yourself, but how many of you, raise your hand, how many of you sort of worked with or for people who felt like they had to always do it themselves? They didn't really trust other people to do it right. Raise your hand. Yeah, yeah. And what's the impact of that if you're working for somebody who has difficulty delegating and always feels like, or often feels like, if they want it done right, they got to do it themselves? Yeah. Yeah, probably a number of you have worked in those situations. And what's the impact of that? If I'm functioning as a leader with the assumption that, oh damn, if I want it done right, I got to do it myself. What's the impact on your organization? Let's hear from some folks who haven't spoken up yet.
I think it takes away from their accountability and responsibility, and so they will stop trying harder.
So other people will stop trying to maybe take more initiative or work harder or take on new projects because there's no room for them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. How many of you have felt like, especially when the stakes are a little bit higher, like your tendency is to jump in and do it yourself? And raise your hand. Yeah, me too. Me too. And what I know about myself is that the more anxious I am about the outcome, the more controlling I am. about how it gets handled. And to some extent, that's understandable. One of the things that I learned the hard way was asking the importance of asking myself, is this the best use of my time right now? Is this the best use of my time? And who else around me is looking for an opportunity to step up and take more responsibility? Okay. Let's look at the second myth, Fran, the next one that you have on your.
Yeah. So leaders need to make everyone happy. And for this, there was less disagreements. It seemed
Okay.
mostly
How
disagreement.
many of you have felt the pressure of, oh my God, I got to make everybody happy. So decision making is really hard for maybe for you or other people that you see, like, because you want to make everybody happy. Can you raise your hand? Like, we all have these moments, right? Now, I'm not saying that it's not important to make other people happy. Like, who wakes up in the morning and says to themselves, gee, I want to see how many people I can make miserable today? That's not typical way of approaching the day. But if you're having great difficulty delegating or not delegating, decision making, it may be because, oh, I'm looking for the exact right decision because I want to make everybody happy. I don't want to deal with so and so who's going to be really upset with me over this decision. Let me give you an example from my own experience. My first 10 years at Brown, I worked as a therapist in the counseling center. Right? You know, people for the most part, they like their therapist, right? They like it's a good relationship, hopefully. Then I transitioned to the position of the chief student affairs officer. And in that role, the discipline system, the crisis management system, the residential system, student activity, like, you know, lots and lots of departments reported to me. And the reality is that every day there was a faculty member, a parent, a student, or a staff member who were royally irritated with me, like angry about some decision I'd made or some decision that our office had made or whatever. And about 2 months into that role, I realized that my stress level was off the chart and that if I kept trying to make everybody happy, that I was going to die in that position. It was just too much. And so for me, the transition in my leadership beliefs was to move from I need to make everybody happy to I really want to be fair by my own definition of fairness. So if I could go to sleep at night and know that I had listened to all the different stakeholders carefully, not, you know, forever and ever and ever, but that I listened to everybody and that I was taking into consideration their perspectives, then I could tolerate the fact that there were people sometimes literally yelling and screaming at me. So I just throw that out there that if you're sort of focused in ways that really have a negative impact on you because you're trying to make everybody happy, you might think about how can you think about this differently? And for me, it was a transition to as long as I know that I'm being fair in my own definition of fairness, I can live with a pushback. All right. So that's a myth that you might want to think about reframing.
Mhm.
There's another myth there. What else? What else was on the poll, Fran? What other one?
Leaders need to stay in control at all times.
Yeah, we kind of hit on that a little bit when we talked about vulnerability, and high needs for control. If you set really high standards for yourself and for others, then the reality is it is hard to let go. How many of you have children? Raise your hands. Talk about a lesson in letting go of control. Oh my God, from the moment they're infants on up till they're in adulthood, right?
Mm.
What enables you as a parent to let go and not expect everything to be perfect? What enables you to let go with your kids? Anybody? Trust? Yeah. What
I would
else?
say it's faith. You have to
If there's
believe that you endowed them with the skills to function on their own, and you are able to let them go.
Yeah, which is scary as heck sometimes because you don't always believe that they're able to make good judgments. But what else enables you to let go with your kids?
Trust. That you trust your own instincts and you trust the natural progress of evolution, hopefully, to allow that to happen. That you want to intergenerationally make things better than they were for you, and you've examined that within yourself so that you can like want better for your kids and the next generation. It's evolution, right? In a way, I don't know.
I wanted to add too, I wanted to add that the kids themselves are pushing back and saying, I've got this.
Yeah.
That's their job, right?
Yeah.
That's their job to test the boundaries, right? But somebody in the chat a little bit ago made a comment about the balance between letting go and learning, that children need to learn. And if we tell them step by step all the time what to do, first of all, we irritate the heck out of them. And secondly, there's a lot to be said for learning by experience. And as parents, we're always sort of looking at like, how much risk am I going to be willing to let them experience? How much room am I going to let? The same is true in some ways. It's different because they're not your kids. But when you're leading an organization, there has to be a little bit of letting go so that people can learn. And that goes back to something I said at the very beginning. One of our primary jobs as leaders is to help other people develop the skills, capacity, confidence, and courage to do their jobs and to grow in those jobs. And so there's this dance that we play with other people in terms of giving them enough space to go ahead and learn, but not so much space that they or others get hurt. What was one? I think there was at least one other myth, Fran, that we asked them to think about.
Yeah, those are I think we've touched upon the 5 that we had outlined.
Okay. Yeah.
But we could ask the audience if there are other myths.
Yeah, exactly. What other narratives have you told yourself or seen other people tell themselves? And what impact do those myths have on them? What other myths are there? Anybody?
Perfection.
Perfection. Yeah, perfection is the enemy of the possible, right? Sometimes, what else?
Well, also, this is a different setting, but sometimes leaders want the team to make the decision. So it to be unanimous. But it's giving the option for people to show their thoughts, but their competencies are different. So you cannot always make a team decision or, consistently. You have to really also allow for experience to weigh, right? To be a factor that weighs in.
Yeah. Consensus is a very difficult way to operate. So I worked at a Quaker camp for a summer, and then I was on their board. Wonderful organization. I adored the way that they did their work, and I realized at some point along the way, that I could never lead a Quaker-based organization that was so focused on consensus. I just didn't have the patience for it. Somebody else had another interesting one in the chat. Fran, what did I miss?
I have one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tom.
Hi. The one that occurs to me is that self-protection is the best policy. I've found that transparency is actually the best policy. So that's a myth. Is that like there are things that I don't know. This is just me, but things I need to keep to myself as a leader. I've found that it's. I mean, I'm not talking about oversharing now, but I do think that vulnerability is actually the best the best policy for a leader of a team. That's just been my experience.
So Tom, thanks for that point. And it's a really important one of balancing transparency, which builds trust, with also, making sure that people have confidence in you and can trust you to provide some direction.
Mhm.
There was
There are,
one other friend.
well, I see Susan has her hand raised, but I also do want to raise a couple people in the chat have mentioned myths around how leadership should look, particularly when it comes to gender or race or status.
Yeah, let me just comment on that. And there's another one about introverts and extroverts, which is one of my favorite topics. Yeah, I mean, for many, many years, and certainly to an extent still, the images that we have of leadership are often confined to white men, right? And that varies depending on the industry that you're in. When I work with people in high tech fields, it is typically weighted in the direction of certainly of men. And so there's no doubt in my mind. I mean, I've listened to and coached many, many female leaders and leaders of color who have struggled with how they deal with the expectations or assumptions or lack of confidence that other people have around. That is for real. That is not, let's not kid ourselves that those days are gone. So that certainly comes into play. I want to make one comment about introverts and extroverts, because that was in the chat, and then we're going to open it up for Fran to talk about the Leaders Coach program, which is a great program at Brown. I think that people who are in leadership positions who are extroverts, well, let me broaden that even more. I think our culture is biased towards extroverts, right? So as a teacher, I am very aware of this, that when I ask a question, even in a webinar setting like this, that oftentimes the first people to raise their hand or to make a comment are the extroverts who think out loud. I'm one of them. I'm an extreme extrovert. My family used to joke that there was no edit button between my brain and my mouth. And I think that's a little harsh. I think there is an edit button there, but I think by speaking. I was married for a very long time to somebody who thought first and then spoke. So if you're in a leader position and you want the input from a whole group of team members, you need to think about how can I level the playing field so that everyone can have a voice. And so there's lots of little things, like I send the agenda out ahead of time to give everybody a chance to think about it rather than surprising people at that moment when we start the meeting. I do more things like asking people to write first, and then we open it up for discussion. Right. So as a leader, as a coach, I think it's really important to be aware of differences in how people process information, because some of the most brilliant people I've ever worked with were introverts who needed a little bit more space or time. And if I just responded to the external processors, the extroverts, and went with them, I was missing a lot of good input. So let's think about silence. Think about asking for people who haven't spoken, giving them a chance to speak, giving people a chance to write, et cetera, et cetera. Makes sense? I could go on for days, weeks about leadership. And, like I said in the very beginning, I'm 73 years old. I am still learning about leadership on a regular basis in my teaching, in my coaching, and Vivian said, personally, I think the introverts are your secret weapon. Anyway, I need to stop and give Fran some space here to talk about this wonderful program that we have called Leader as Coach. And as a coach-like leader, you're being challenged in this program to think about some of these myths and how you show up. as a leader. So Fran, I turn it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Robin. I promise I'll be quick and we'll have, hopefully we'll have more than 10 minutes to kind of pick up where we left off with the conversation. And in the interest of making space for individuals who maybe are more on the quiet side, I did see there was a hand raise. Both Susan, you have your hand raised right now, but also there was Galbunu, if I'm saying that name correctly, had her hand raised a couple different times. So I want to make space to circle back if there was still something that you wanted to share. So let me share my screen. See that okay? Great. And yeah, so I really appreciate the engagement. Really led to a rich conversation. And so what we're talking about here today is not necessarily that they're bad leadership habits. As I mentioned, they're really common instincts. It makes sense that we kind of gravitate towards that, especially in environments that feel complex or uncertain. At the same time, each of these instincts tend to have predictable impacts, and that's what we also discussed today. Often one can work against the kind of we can work against the kind of culture and outcomes that we actually are trying to create. If we live in these myths and we're filtering data as it come in and leads to these unforeseeable impacts, we kind of steer away from the value-based leadership that we may want to have. And so, for example, the top one here, I'll just point this one out. So the idea that leaders need to have all the answers, what we often see as leads to kind of over-advising, shutting down thinking, and teams becoming more dependent on the leader. And so what this shift looks like in practice is kind of captured here on this slide. So it's not about doing less as a leader. It's more about doing something different. And so you'll notice the shift is actually quite active. It's about asking instead of telling, creating space instead of filling it, building ownership instead of taking things on yourself, modeling, sharing, delegating, engaging, leading with curiosity. These are all very intentional leadership behaviors that may not come naturally, but something that can be learned and practiced and then taken on. And so this is what we call a leader as coach mindset. It offers a different way of responding in these moments, one that builds capability, ownership, and stronger outcomes over time. And so that is where the Leader as Coach program here at Brown, it's designed to do. It helps leaders learn and practice these skills so that they can apply them directly in their day-to-day leadership and in the moments that matter most. So I'm going to walk you through the Leader as Coach program in the details about it. So it is delivered here at Brown in partnership with ACT Leadership, which is a global leader in executive coaching and leadership development. This program is designed for leaders and professionals who are navigating exactly these kinds of challenges where work is complex and the answers aren't always clear. And the program itself focuses on helping leaders build both the mindset as well as the skill set to lead in that way, to move from being the person with the answers to being someone who can kind of unlock stronger thinking, ownership, and performance in others. And I have gone through the program. Robin has been a leader, trainer in the course itself, so we can certainly attest to the strength of the program itself. So we offer Leader as Coach in two formats. We've got in person as well as online. And the idea behind offering two options is that it really allows you kind of to choose your own adventure, selecting the option that works best for you based on your own learning style, your needs, as well as what logistically might work best for you. So the next course that is upcoming is our in-person. It's a 3-day intensive in-person experience offered here at Brown University on our Providence, Rhode Island campus. So this format is really more ideal for anyone who's looking for that immersive experience. This is the program I went through. And so if you want to just block out time, take the time off from work and be able to be there and be immersed in the content, this option might be the best one for you. The second option we offer is a live online course. It consists of 7 weekly sessions held on Tuesday evenings. So we just had a course that started up back in March. And so the next online option is going to be in the fall. We offer the program in the spring and in the fall. And so the exact dates I can go through right here in a second. The one thing I like to point out, though, is that whether you choose the in-person or the online, both options deliver the same content. It's really just the modality that's different. So the in-person option that's coming up starts up in a few weeks. It's going to be a Wednesday through Friday program starting April 15th through April 17th, 3 full days, 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And then, as I mentioned, the online fall course will be held on Tuesday evenings starting September 15th through October 27th, 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so just a brief overview of the topics that are covered, again, in both modalities. So there's 7 core modules. Each of them are designed to build your coaching skills. And Robin, feel free to weigh in on speak to some of these as well, but I'm going to walk you through them. The first is coaching foundations. So this is where you're going to learn why coaching matters, how to create that sense of psychological safety and trust within your team when you're engaging in a coach-like conversation. You want to be able to create that space first. You'll learn the difference between coaching and mentoring, and also begin to build coaching mindsets, a coaching mindset so that you can get ready for the rest of the program. And then with module 2, you're going to touch upon active listening and questioning. You'll develop the skills to truly listen and ask questions that drive deeper understanding. This was one of my favorite modules, both on the aspect of what practicing active listening, but for also really developing a deeper skill set around question asking, trying to avoid the binary yes/no questions, and learning how to ask open-ended questions to kind of lead to a deeper, rich conversation. Module 3, you're going to learn concrete coaching skills and begin to master the structure of a coach-like conversation. By module 4, you're actually going to be invited to take a step back, and you're going to asked to kind of flesh out what your values and your purpose are in your position, professional position. And by doing that, you're able to then make sure that when you are engaging these coach-like conversations, that you actually stay grounded in those values. And that's really going to steer the direction of the conversation. Module 5 is called Reactive to Creative. This is another one of my favorite modules because it helps participants identify when you or your colleagues might be operating in kind of that survival mode, more reactive mode, which is very natural when we're under stress. That's kind of what we default to. But the module focuses not only on identifying when you're in that mode, but also how to shift away from that mode so that you can actually be in a more creative, open mindset, where you can then start tackling creative problem solving and engaging in a more productive conversation. And then the last 2 modules, you'll focus on sustainment, application, and integration, which really allows students to practice and embed the skills through real life applications so they become second nature. I think something that's really unique about the way that this program's taught here at Brown is that it's an incredibly participatory program. Throughout the course, it emphasizes hands-on learning. So basically, day 1 of the class, you're not only learning, but then you're asked to break out into dyads or triads and practice the skills that you are learning. You'll also, the teachers, there's always 2 instructors. And so they do a lot of role playing. And so you can have modeled in front of you how a coach-like conversation can go. And it's fun because the different instructors come from different professional backgrounds and have different personalities. So you can see that they can be employing the same skills, but it can look incredibly different. And you want to be able to engage with your authentic self when you're using these skills. Here are some of the outcomes. You'll walk away with the ability to have multidimensional leadership skills tailored for today's fast-changing, complex workplace, the ability to build trust and lead more meaningful interactions, practical techniques to empower, motivate, and engage your team, and strategies to navigate uncertainty with greater clarity and confidence. Here's the upcoming registration deadlines. I'll put the enrollment link in the chat. So if you want to check out the program, you can put that there. If you are thinking about the in-person offering, you have until kind of end of next week to sign up. And I won't touch upon this too much, but just know that here at Brown and with ACT Leadership, we do have some other coaching options. So if you are thinking about becoming a leadership or professional coach more on as part of your profession as a job, we do have an 8-month ICF certified level 1 accredited certification program, as well as team coaching, which you can see Robin is a part of. All right, I am going to hand it back to you, Robin. I'm sure there are some more comments and questions we want to get to.
Yeah, just to clarify, somebody had asked about could they have access to the slides? Do they get access to the
Well,
slides?
as part of the recording, it will be added and you'll be able to visit it there. You will get a follow-up email to in a couple of days with the link to the recording, but also with information about the program. And then they should also provide a discount for the program there, but I'll also put it into the chat to get
Okay. Susan, you've had your hand up for a long time.
Well, it was easy. Thank you for noticing. Robin and company, I'm really excited to see Brown doing this. And I think this is really what leadership needs to look like. And we were never trained this way. Robin, I'm part of your generation, class of 76. Worked for the last, 40-ish or so years, proving we belong to that wonderful masculine power circle and recognizing that in these kinds of times and what's necessary. And Brown is doing this amazing job to really recognize, what the diversity means, points of view, how are we behaving, who are we being as opposed to the doing, and more of that relational, human-centric way of looking at things. So thank you so much. My business is in this. And what we also do here is, I was curious about a couple of things, and I'll just want to make a couple of comments if I could. You talked about the introvert extrovert. What my training has been in the last dozen years or so around woman-centered coaching and facilitation and leadership is that notion of that's. I think we're walking a fine line of how deeply we are listening before we respond. And the difference between that reaction, oh yeah, I'm that way too, sort of extrovert, I'm in there, and also process verbally. But I think recognizing that, sitting back, taking that breath, leaving the space for others is really essential. And I think that's part of that, way of that part of that self-awareness, that I've been going through as well. The group think thing, this whole thing about consensus. Most of our clients, which are large enterprise companies, are ridden with, the white male groupthink consensus that turns into groupthink, which is hugely toxic, and it just perpetuates the sameness. And I think that's hugely dangerous and something that needs to be recognized. Part of this is not a commercial, but part of it, something we didn't talk about, is to take the C-suite, that traditional C-suite, and take them out of their heads and that into their feeling and their ability to feel. We do that through the arts.
Yeah.
And that way they can communicate differently. It's like a Trojan horse. They don't even realize it, that they're opening up, right? And recognizing that. And I have one other, it's getting away from that sameness, that, oh my God, I can't believe it. That's what it's like to work here as a young female engineer or a person of color, because they don't have any reference. They weren't taught either any of this. And I was curious, one last thing I wanted to say about is take it maybe a little further. The coach, I think, model is amazing. In current day, the answers are actually within, mining the collective intelligence. And there is a facilitation aspect of this as well, is facilitating the groups as a leader, moving the energy and whatnot. And I was curious if Brown is also perhaps looking at it that way, leader as coach, leader as facilitator. Because really,
so that's a very broad question and broader than I can respond to all levels of it in the few minutes we have remaining. But that's addressed very directly in our team coaching program. It's like reading the energy of the group and being able to respond to that and utilize the basic coaching skills in the context of a group. Leadership is really a lot about facilitating. I mean, I think about the way folks facilitate meetings, and the reality is that there are very few people who are trained to facilitate a group or facilitate a meeting in a particularly inclusive and efficient way. And I think this program helps you to gain some of those skills. But then the question or the challenge is, how do you apply that in the context of a group? And that's a whole other ball of wax, because you're not just dealing with the dynamics of you and the coachee or the client, but you're dealing with a whole group of people. But thank you for making those points. We're gonna run out of time here, Fran. Is there anything
Yeah.
that you
I
wanted to have?
invited folks to drop into the chat, share with others one takeaway from the conversation today. I am
great.
blown away with how engaged everyone was. So thank you so much for showing up and taking part in this. There was one formal question in the Q&A that I could read out loud. Erica asks, what steps or actions do you suggest or have you used to reframe your thinking? For example, when you start to recognize this isn't working, or I realize I'm not displaying the best example of being a leader, I need to do something different. I'm not producing or getting the best results that I would like to see. What any tips or steps or actions?
I always think for myself and somebody that I'm interacting with, some basic questions like, what am I telling myself about the situation? What do I believe about what's my narrative right now about a particular situation? And how is that serving me? How is that serving others? And finally, what's a different way of thinking about this that will serve me and others better? Okay, and there's lots of ways to push ourselves to reframe, whether it's using metaphors, thinking about metaphors, or whatever. But that's that's the foundation, is to start with, what am I telling myself? What's the impact of that? How is it serving me? And how might I think about this differently in a way that serves me and others better? And that's a lot to ask yourself, but yeah. But in any moment in time, we probably have a belief system about the person that we're interacting with, an assumption that we make about them, or, groups of people we work with. It's just fascinating, isn't it? Like, behavior serves a purpose, always, sometimes not such a great purpose. And anything we can do to raise our own level of self-awareness as human beings, as well as to help other people raise their self-awareness. And you can do that without, trying to pretend or be a therapist. It's in this moment. What am I telling myself? Anyway, this is fascinating. Bruce, thanks for identifying yourself as a former Brown student. Kudos to you and the work that you're doing. And wish we had more time to get to know each other. But the program, the Leaders Coach, is really powerful, and it can have a big impact, especially for people who don't necessarily want to be working as coaches full time, but just want to be more coach-like in the way in which they lead. So thank you for showing up and for participating.
Yeah, and thank you, Robin.
You bet. All right. Take care, everyone. Be safe.
Bye.